Dan founded the AIM Institute in 2005 to help B2B companies build market-facing skills needed for reliable organic growth. He is the author of a couple of books. One is Business Builders, How to Become an Admired and Trusted Corporate Leader. It's one of my favorites. We did some excerpts of that in our emails, and it's a great book. And New Product Blueprinting, which is a classic. He also has a weekly blog that if you're not signed up for, it's worth having, called Awkward Realities, and a video series called B2B Organic Growth. He is a chemical engineer with numerous patents and a listing in the National Inventors Hall of Fame, and he's trained tens of thousands of people globally in B2B voice of the customer skills. He's been watching the rapid change of AI and thinking broadly about how the use of AI is and will be affecting our marketing world of work. And some AI experts believe much of the work done by B2B marketers will be done by AI. I just think it's too much sugar that I had. Wasn't anything else. Sure. Sure, we believe that humans will be needed when empathy, imagination, and judgment are called for, but if AI does 80% of the time-consuming work, will two marketers do the work of 10? In this talk, Dan is going to introduce to you the digital waterline. AI can only operate on what's been digitally published. I continue to say that mantra every time I get a little concerned. It's not been published, AI doesn't know about it yet, right? We don't know about it yet. So what can safeguard our careers? Becoming as efficient as possible above the waterline and as effective as possible below the waterline. And Dan will explain that. So we're going to discuss what this means for us, and then we'll keep talking about not just business risk, but career risk. Come on up, Dan.
Great, thank you, Lynn. Thank you. Yeah, when I heard the conference is going to be on risk and mostly on business risk, I said to Lynn, could we do it on career risk? And she said, is that because you're so young, you have your whole career ahead of you, Dan? but the reason is I have had so many conversations with people about AI and how it's impacting them. And the range is fantastic, all the way from singularities coming next year, so why bother, to AI, shmai, this isn't going to bother me, and and a lot of different points of view in between. So here's what we're not going to do today. We're not going to decide what the future is, because frankly, none of us know. And I think JT said this morning. He said our job isn't to predict the future; it's to prepare for the future. And so that's what fascinates me. What I'd love to hear more about isn't what do each one of us think is going to happen, but how are each one of us, how are we preparing? What are we doing now to be ready for AI? How do we take advantage of it? How do we make it flip the coin from risk to opportunity and so on? So that's really the point of this session here. So I'm going to start with what I've been reading a little. You've probably been reading some of these things as well, but let's just get a very short grounding on what some experts are saying is coming. And then they don't know either, right? So then we'll get into good stuff, which is what are we going to do about it, all right? So how many of you seen this Anthropic chart a few months ago? Yeah, so I apologize, it is an eye chart, so I'll kind of take you through it. The blue area is what the Anthropic researchers say is the AI potential in terms of the percent of the job tasks that can be done by AI, okay? The red is the percent of the job tasks that have been penetrated so far on each of those. So if you're in management, they say potentially to do 91% of the task and it's penetrated 15%. You're in business and finance, 30%. Computer and math is the farthest along in terms of penetration at 38%. Sales, interesting. Not as high a potential, you still need that human interaction, but it's already at 30%. Office and administration, pretty high. And if you have really one takeaway that you want to leave this entire conference on, it's really, you really want to get into grounds maintenance. Okay. So now, when we see this kind of thing, we have to kind of think about it a little bit. I mean, if you're Anthropic or you're any of the AI big producers here, it is in your interest to say this is going to be huge because you have these enormous valuations, right? So take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. It may or may not be the case here. And also, when you interpret this data, this is percent of tasks that can be done either solely or partly by AI. So we don't really know what it's going to end up looking like. But are there any questions on that so far? The second data point, then we'll get into the other stuff. How many of you were here a few years ago when Chris Penn spoke at the ISBN meeting? Wasn't that a brilliant talk? This guy really knows his stuff. I would encourage you, if you want to keep up with him, go out to trustinsights.ai. He's got a wonderful newsletter. And what he has said is you can kind of predict which job tasks are going to be taken over by AI, depending upon these 5 parameters. If it takes a lot of time to do, if it's repetitive, if it's important, it's a real pain to do. And there's enough data saying it's already working out there. There's a very good chance AI is going to take it over. So that's one model. But the reason I put this up here is I really thought this quote was interesting. A job is a collection of tasks. The more tasks that AI consumes, the more likely it is we will feel AI's impact in our employment. Now, this is the key sentence for me. Not because AI can do the entire job, but because AI can eat away at tasks until a person's job is mostly managing AI. So if you have 50 people who did a job and AI consumes 80% of it, you need 10 people. So that's one perspective. Now, again, on the other hand, I feel a little bit like Tevye and Fiddler on the Roof. On the other hand, remember, so on the other hand, AI may give us the ability to do things we aren't doing today. So will the 80% of jobs go away because AI is doing them? Or will we find other things to do with 80% of our time? I don't know. And that's not the point, is to be able to predict that. But anyway, I just want to start us off with a little bit of what the experts are saying, and then we'll get into the area we can do something about, which is how do we prepare, not predict. Okay? So what does AI do better than humans? Let's start with that. It's really good at taking everything that's ever been published by mankind. It's good at recognizing patterns, working really fast, tirelessly. It's also very good at generating a lot of options for us. And within the systems that it's generating, it's pretty damn good at selecting some nice options. So when you have things like memory, analysis, bandwidth, those sort of things, yeah, AI is probably going to step up and do a lot of the work for you. But hey, humans, we're not chopped liver. There's some things we can do pretty good too here. And building trust, addressing fears, clarifying issues, and making sense out of situations that are messy. There's a lot of messy out there, right? Especially if you're a B2B marketer, there's a lot of messy out there. So there's hope for us. So I think it's a very good question to ask, how can AI assist me? But I think it might be short-sighted to stop there. So a lot of people I've been talking to say, how can AI help me do this a little bit faster? And that's the end of it. I think you should start with that. I think it's also good, though, to think a little bit about what would it take so AI will never replace me? And so for me, a really good question is, what work can I master that AI cannot master? So that's where I want to spend a little bit of our time thinking about what are the uniquely human capabilities we have that we can maybe double down on to some extent, okay? So that's where, I don't know, one day just came up with this goofy concept I call the digital waterline. And the thing that occurred to me was, if it's not been digitally published, either publicly or privately, AI can't do a darn thing. It's completely invisible to AI. So what we can do is learn everything else in customer conversations. And maybe there's other things. Our business tends to focus on voice of customer. So, and Kristen's does as well. So this is good news for us, Kristen. Hopefully there's room for us to keep going below the digital waterline. But there may be other things below the digital waterline. And I'd love you to think about that. We'll have some buzz groups a little later. So I want to get some other thoughts from you that you may say, hey, this is below the digital waterline as well. Okay. So let's think about what's in each of these domains. So if you're in marketing, and you are, a lot of these things are going to be done by AI. market sizing, segmentation, message testing, and so forth. One of my clients, the lady I work with, has 100 marketing people. She's the head of marketing excellence, and she went off. I think it was, where's Will? I think it was Microsoft that sent her there. Yeah, I think Microsoft sent her to a course at Harvard to learn more about AI. It was very, very good. And she came back, and I was on a call where she was with all the marketers. You know what she told them? She said, "I'm really glad I'm close to retirement." All of them, right? So anyway, what about some of these other functions? It's not just marketing. Okay, if you're in tech service, a lot of these things are R&D. Many of these can be done by AI as well. If you're in sales, there's a lot of these tasks that can be done by AI as well. Now, again, it's not that AI is going to just do your whole job, but it could do a lot of the work, a lot of the heavy lifting that took hours or days or weeks to do before very rapidly. Now, we'll still be involved. We still have to make the final decisions. Not only that, we're the ones who initiate the project. Hey, AI, here's what I want you to work on. So we may kick the thing off and we may make the final decisions. But if it took us a lot of time in between and AI does that, now either the company doesn't need us or we find other things to do, okay? All right, so now if we think about below the waterline, and I'm going to focus a little bit on the human conversation area for a little bit, there's a lot here. When you are talking to your customer, you're going to hear things that did not get digitally published. What were the workarounds they had to deal with in their manufacturing process or whatever the process was? What were the hidden constraints, the trade-offs they have to make, their own career risks that they're facing, their unspoken concerns? What about the stakeholders that are impacted inside that company that's your customer? What are their incentives? They tell you about a problem. Maybe you can find it in AI, but what's the context for it, the frequency of it, the financial impact? A lot of this is not going to get revealed and put out on the domain, the public domain. So that's something we need to get at. A lot of companies have been cutting back on their new hires because they go, "Oh, we can have AI do that," you know. Now, I don't know where they think they're going to get the experience in a few years when they need more seasoned people, but it's a kind of a short-term sort of thing. Has anybody heard what IBM's solution for this was? They're hiring more from the early entry people, and you know what guess what they're having to go do? Yeah, well, that too, I bet. Yeah, go talk to customers. They're hiring more people, and they're sending them out to talk to customers. One of the dangers of turning everything over to AI is you're now a supervisor, right? AI is working for you. You are a supervisor. It's a really difficult position to be in when you are supervising work you have never done yourself, right? So there's some need to still get the entry level, get that experience, but they're, as I say, doubling down on customer meetings and visits.
Dan,
Yeah, please.
you may be getting this, I may be getting ahead of it, but there's a lot of stuff here that, what were the first uses of AI? The first uses of AI was to capture tacit knowledge. The guy who really knows how to fix this, who's been here for 30 years, is retiring. And when he leaves or she leaves, no one is going to understand the tacit knowledge that's about to walk out the door. It's oh, I know what's wrong with this machine. I've heard this noise before. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, no, I can smell what's going on here. And that's below the digital waterline stuff. That's really important. The tacit knowledge that's about to walk out the door based on years of experience.
Yeah,
that's
another great example below the digital waterline. Not just what our customers can tell us, but what others in our company that hasn't been published. There's a lot.
Not published, but walking out the door.
And walking out the door, leaving and not coming back. Excellent point. Please.
Question. So how do you classify into these groups above and below waterline, right?
So, yeah.
How you perceive things? Is there a methodology behind that?
Yeah, so this concept of digital waterline is about 2 months old, so it could be certainly improved upon. But when I think about it, it's anything that has been digitally published publicly or privately. So that would include things in our CRM of our company, but it would also include when Claude and ChatGPT go out and then they're bringing it all back, it's been digitally published and everything else is below.
Let me challenge it a little bit.
Yeah, please.
So it sounds to me like you talk about, oh, we are aggregating existing information, but AI is also generating synthetic information. It's thinking through stuff that we haven't thought through.
Yes, exactly.
How do you respond to
Think
that?
about it this way. It is doing amazing. It's not, your point is a great one. It's more than an internet, which is just pulling information in, right? It's pulling it in and it's processing the information. But think about that information as the raw material. For instance, if it never knew about the hidden constraints my customer have in a certain process, it only knows about what's been digitally published about my customer's process. So I'll give you, so what we're finding is AI is really, really good at looking at some different market segments and scoring them. If my product does this, where could it go? So it's giving us a lot of great ideas for market segments we could go in. It's incredible. And to your point, it's processing that, scoring it, ease of entry, the market size, but it never had this raw material. So what we're saying is, don't ignore it, use AI as much as you can and bring in everything you can from AI, not just bringing it in, but processing it, but then also supplement it with things AI doesn't know about yet. Does that make sense? It just hasn't gotten the message. It just hasn't heard this stuff. Good, excellent. Yes, please. David.
I might be jumping ahead, but are you worried about that water line falling?
Yes. I am, because it's very, very perceptive. So we're training our sales force. So right now, salespeople do a really bad job, generally speaking, putting things into the CRM, right? We did some research on this. One salesperson said, I would rather clean my customers' restrooms. But as they get better at this, it becomes a discipline, right? Now, they will be hearing more below the water line, and they'll be reporting on the hidden constraints and the trade-offs and so forth. So yes, the water line will probably be coming down, but if you're about to drown, you look for the shallowest place you can go, right? So, I mean, I think we don't know where this is all going to end up, but there's anything left for humans. So one way of thinking about this would be perhaps, what is the low-hanging fruit for AI that's going to take over pretty soon? And where are the things that are going to be most challenging for AI to penetrate? So I think there's going to be a lot of conversations that will take a long time to get into the above the waterline, I think. Yeah.
At the same time, with that example, there's tension dealing with a couple of really big clients right now where the pushback on CRM has gone up really hard, right? Like they didn't want to do it before. Now it's almost like we're going to have a strike.
What's causing that, Paul? What's the thinking?
You're making me put this in. You put a GPS tracker on my truck. You
Yeah, I see.
This is so that in 6 months I can be gone.
At the
I'm not gonna
worker
help you.
level, at the
Exactly.
worker level. Okay, that makes all kinds of sense.
Yeah.
I saw you guys might have seen this photo, a bunch of workers, I think in Bangladesh, and they've got these cameras on their head because they want to see what they're doing so they can replace all the workers with robots, like, so it's a little bit of a similar.
That's what Meta's doing now too, that before they were ripped of 10%, they had them, you could not opt out. They were tracking absolutely everything they were doing before they were out the door. So
Yeah.
kind of Ralph's point that they were
Yeah.
creating their own insurance.
Yes. It's fascinating. We don't know where this is going, but what has occurred to me when I think about sales and think about marketing, I used to think sales was the more endangered species, right? Disintermediation, the internet's coming, you don't need salespeople, they can order online, all that kind of stuff, right? Now I look and I say marketing may be the more endangered species because sales still has that responsibility of really connecting personally with people. So I don't know. Yes, please.
So, when you talk about, what the human domain is, you can train AI all that information, right? So how does that fit in with this
Yeah,
example?
great. We're gonna get to it a little bit. But here's the maybe a short answer. And I'm gonna bring it back to the customer conversation, okay? If I am your customer, let's say you're the salesperson or the marketing person, and you are calling on me. If you are, well, let me ask all of you, have you ever had somebody who was listening to you carefully, who thought you were interesting, who was asking you great questions, who thought you were just fascinating? Yeah, I haven't either. That would be so cool if it happened sometime, you know? So the point is, I think there's still gonna be room for that human interaction. If I'm sincerely interested in you, AI could ask the questions. I don't know that the customer is gonna give the answers as readily. That's theory, okay? Good,
There's
okay.
also a component of sales that had fallen out of favor as we became more strict in how things were done. But you still see it in a lot of industries that are kind of older. That will continue, which is the entertainment that goes along with. So it's not even necessarily how interested am I in you, but do you
Right.
want to go to a baseball game? And AI could never do that.
Exactly right, yeah,
No.
they probably cheat. Yeah, there's a lot that goes on in human interactions. I've got a little slide that's gonna kind of explain how we react in a little bit. It's a great conversation here. So below the waterline, come back to your question. It's information that's unpublished, but not is it just unpublished, it's also really, really messy, okay? So let's think about what a good strategy would be. If you take nothing else away from this talk, I would love it if this is what you took away. Be as efficient as you can using AI above the waterline, and be as effective as you can building human skills below the waterline. We're gonna have a little buzz group here in a little bit talking about ways we can do that, okay? So one way that I'm familiar with is mastering customer conversation. So we came up with this concept of the B2B decision-making onion. How do the customer, the B2B customers, make their decisions? And so on the very outside of the onion is I'm selling my offering, right? Here's the features, here are the benefits, okay? But if you go inside that onion one level, what really matters are the desired end results, the problems I'm solving, the things that they want to have happen in their job to be done. Okay, whatever that customer's job to be done is. Okay, and then going a little deeper, now we're getting to how the individual sees themselves and wants to be seen. Okay, that's very important. And then inside that, and here's where the decision-making actually starts, is actually brain chemistry, okay? This is happening in milliseconds. You don't notice the dopamine and the cortisol and the adrenaline at all. So what's happening when you sense a reward, that you move to, you're expecting a reward, you're getting the dopamine hits. Not receiving the award. Remember, it's expecting the reward. That's what causes the dopamine hit, okay? If you sense a threat, uncertainty, risk, or something like that, that's when you get the cortisol and adrenaline level. This stuff happens another way. We subconsciously are detecting a threat or an opportunity, and we will approach or avoid that. And then later, when we're doing our side-by-side comparisons and our evaluations and being very, very rational, in many cases, what we're doing is we're just justifying a decision our brain chemicals told us to do earlier. And we can change our mind if we get new evidence. But largely what's happening is it's a subconscious brain chemistry. And so really what's happening is decisions tend to start from the inside and work their way out. And so, you know, the thing you want to do is don't start with your product, focus most of your conversation on the outcomes, do learn who is impacted and how, who's affected, how's it, you know, so forth, how they measure it and so forth. You just got to understand who those stakeholders are, because companies don't make decisions, people make decisions. So if we don't know who the stakeholders are, we don't know how they're reacting, we really don't know how to make a decision. But can you see how these are very human sort of qualities here that we're talking about? You're sitting in a Zoom meeting or you're sitting across a desk. So this is what you ask, and this is how you ask. You know, are you curious? Are you helpful? Are you empathetic? Are you attentive? Are you relaxed about this whole thing? So could AI do this someday? Yeah, it may be. Like, what was the movie Her? Was it? You know, what I mean? So I don't know where it's going, but I think it's going to be, if nothing else, these will be some of the last vestiges of our human unique capabilities. And so it might behoove us to get good at these sort of things. Okay, kind of a compassionate curiosity. So now what we're going to do, you guys are going to do some of the work here. We're going to have a little breakout. Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually forgot I made some new slides, but this will work just fine here. Okay. So I've got 3 questions. You don't have tables here, but we'll just have some buzz groups. So if you don't mind, just find like maybe get like clusters of 3 or 4 people. If you need to move around your seats a little bit, then let's go ahead and do that. But the questions I'd like you to ask would be, what task of yours will likely be done by AI? So think about that a little bit. We talked about those percentages, right? So just what task do you think will be first to go? How significant will be that? Where do you see that ending up? Have a little discussion about that for a few minutes, okay? And then, what are the things that are uniquely human that you think will be most resistant to AI taking those over? I talked about customer conversations. Is that important to you? Are there other things that are important? Think about that a little bit. What would be helpful there? And then I love what from where is I don't think from Microsoft this morning. Will was with us this morning. He talked about skill planning. Did that ring a bell with anybody? It's not like they have a massive skill plan that they're doing at Microsoft every year. And so what skills would help you? So think a little bit about, above the waterline, the efficiency, how can you get really good at these things? And then think also a little bit about what you could do below the waterline. So questions on that, first of all, before we have some buzz groups on this? I'm very interested in hearing the feedback. So if you would, have a spokesman for your group, okay? Because we're going to get some feedback here. This is where we're going to learn some good stuff here. Okay, why don't you go ahead and do that? We'll go till 1/4 Give yourself about 12 minutes to add that buzz group, okay? And then if you want to hear some good stuff from you,
I'm in a confusion. You guys Pastor of dancing.
No, I wasn't.
No, I'm there, guy.
Oh, well,
Okay, so it's been hot, right? I'm gonna be good. I'm not even doing. I'm good. So yeah, I do it. About it, like how yeah. Creamy, or is it like? Okay. It's the connections, yeah.
There are a lot of people here. Wants to be a yes.
Teachers are using AI. Great.
And it's just one more thing like. Yeah.
I would do it enough.
Researching existing knowledge, and doing some intelligence research on it. Figuring out strategies. You can always touch. Yeah. We use that. Better we would have done it. All the information is there. But if it's. Well, if it's wrong. You say to like design experiments. I think there's scientists. It can assist with designing experiments. Thinking like obviously that things like that. But it's helpful to do. We design results. Well. You like to keep that internal then? It's like, it's gonna be like internal. Yeah. They're not gonna go out to the idea.
Forget like everyone, but if you see.
Well, all the fine.
Here it's a little rudimentary, yes. Right here, yes.
Here's something you sell.
Right, right. You got a few good ideas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's already come to that house. Bring it up in like a national conversation about it. Like, oh, you're never getting your money. A number of people like. So already.
People have received a great experience.
Like a, you think like a.
Like you're also there, like, all time. They really like this color. I like it. Appreciate it. Yeah. So the thing too. The other two, they being said. Yeah, it goes back to like the groundskeeper. It comes up with all the, right? So you got it. Like. This one, all of that, and it can be with a lot of sense, and it is very professionally worded.
What about the?
Well,
You mentioned trust, fears, like starting out the best.
got the fear away. Okay, yeah. Plan, whatever, like that's. Have some good judgment. Okay. But it's so fractured, right? I think that'll take a while.
The third question is.
State and what it looks like. Yeah.
The thing with like, pandemic or when now it's called, get back to the office. So everyone is relocating.
Yeah.
That's how.
Yeah.
If you're not. And then any creators like that, better. And the type now it's just tied to the. Yes, sir. Yeah.
So.
Because if
Like that. No, I found it. I found it. That's where it's like, you think you're better than AI, which is kind of like.
First of all, we're gonna start with, well, actually, the first task is, how many of you are going to the ground school? My soul is
I'm already in groundskeeping every Saturday and Sunday, so a minimum of,
You're ahead of your time.
Growth opportunity.
So how about, one group, start us off. What are the tasks of yours that you feel can't be done by hand? Go ahead.
Some market information, rapid market assessments, the size and. Some prep time for sales people. These are active seller, the ability to account profile very quickly. Trying in the R&D group, we had several examples about just much faster, dramatically faster search for research papers, patents. And then a couple other here, and analyzing the results, very quickly getting those results.
In R&D.
In R&D. And then, it just follows rules very well, and the completeness of some of the content were some of the other things that, we follow.
You guys might not have talked, but did you get a sense for how much it's gonna be penetrating at all? Or did any group get a little sense for how far? Anybody have some thoughts on that?
I would say in my current role, just taking all of the market research off, sizing, known drivers, all that kind of stuff. Would remove 50%, what I do
50%.
at least, maybe 60.
Okay, 50-60%.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was really helpful, dude. You got all the functions, sales and. Thank you, that's really good. How about, did any other groups get a rough percentage? Does that feel about right? More or less? Anybody have some other thoughts on that?
We went back and forth depending on what sort of time horizon. Short term, we were sort of probably 50-60.
Yeah.
But then when we started discussing and looking like the horizons out, I think we were starting to think, oh, maybe this is going to be 80-90%.
At the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends how far you went out, really.
Yeah, that's a good point, absolutely. Did you guys have some thoughts on what you're gonna do with your spare time? Is it gonna be, they're gonna keep you on and you'll be relaxed? They'll let you go? You'll find new things to do. Any thoughts as far as what might happen there?
Well, what's happening kind of in real time for me is that yes, that gets shrunk and then other things get added. So I continue doing what I'm doing
Yeah.
and then layering in. Now you're gonna be a strategic market manager for a whole nother venture and kind of not doing that same type of market research, but doing actual market growth.
Marketing tasks you just couldn't get to before.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's really, we'll be doing two jobs. One is a completely new venture where we had fired a company.
Okay,
And so they just give you more to do.
more to do.
Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
which
So-
leads to not hiring more people. So,
Yeah, exactly. How about, that's excellent. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the things we talked about is what'll punch through the water. Okay, so what can you do that punches through the water line? We had some interesting talk on that in terms of connecting above the line, salespeople have a hell of a time even getting people to answer the phone, take the call. What would change that? And that led to some interesting, what could you send them that would be human enough to say, yeah, I want to take your call? So maybe you could use AI to help you come up with ideas. Like, she came up with the idea, like, what about handwritten notes? What about gifts? What about things that go back to the physical domain that set the stage for, you're the one who sent me. Yeah, I didn't expect that, what you sent me. So could you get ideas for content? Could you get ideas for things that would do that to punch through the waterline?
I really like that because there's some expert that I read about. He was an expert in fake like video, basically, fake guy. And he said just recently, I can't tell anymore. And so now taking that, if I get like the book that Lynn mentioned, I had some people I thought people contacted me saying, oh, I love this part of your book, this part of your book. And I thought, oh, they like my book, isn't that? You know, and they want to do some services. Well, now I know it was AI. And so what can we do that is very, very, that the receptacle will be very confident is not AI. I love that. Handwritten notes.
That was what we were, that, I think the handwritten notes, but then that leads to. I don't know, it leads to, I know one guy who's very, very creative at coming up with little gifts that will get put on the person's desk and make that person beholden to answer a phone call. So I see that as punching through the.
Punching through the water line. Love it. Paul.
But that assumes that you're selling to a human being,
Yeah.
not a robot that is AI enabled. And, you know, we're all sales and marketing oriented people. The procurement conference going on somewhere today. It's like getting rid of half of the procurement.
Yeah,
No one touches it.
exactly. In fact, not only at that procurement conference, you know what they're talking about? They're talking about a model called should cost. You know?
Yeah.
And so what they're basically doing is saying, well, here, we've analyzed your process and your raw materials. Here's what the product should cost. So what does that mean for us? That, you know, I mean, maybe it speaks a little bit to differentiation versus commoditization and ways we can fend that off. We don't know. Remember the reverse auctions? We thought we were all dead with
Those were
reverse auctions and it didn't work. So we don't know those.
You have to anchor high with your value calculations, right?
Exactly.
Combat that,
Yeah,
anchor on.
anchor high. I love it. Anything else before we move to the next question? What else on this first topic? Anybody have anything else you want to add?
Just administrative tasks in general.
Administrative,
Like
yeah,
formatting it, PowerPoint.
Yeah. Not really fun stuff.
No, data
It's
entry,
going
yeah.
away. maybe the lessons, we get to do more of the fun stuff. I mean, I kind of think about it like, you know, we used to plow our fields, you know, with oxen and stuff, you know. And now we've got John Deere tractors with nobody in them and, you know, but we're doing other things. You know, so maybe that's what it'll be like. I don't know.
One thing we talked about is really combing away and spotting trends that we couldn't see that would affect us, that, you know, there are patterns in the data that they can help, that a model can do a better job of putting things on our radar as hypotheses that we should test.
I'm glad you brought that up. This is, to me, as I've been working in this area, one of the most impressive things of patterns it's able to see that we don't have access to it and we can't process it fast enough. So that pattern recognition, getting to the signals from the noise is incredible. Interesting. Yes.
One thing that's not on here is content, because the models have to, in order for there to be an agent, there has to be something from it to learn from. And as a brand content, right? Like, so B2B, we were discussing that there's not as much published content in the B2B market out there as there is in the B2C.
Yeah.
So there's going to be, for my job specifically, like content generation, product descriptions, bullet points, the copywriting aspect of it
Yeah.
is going away because of AI, right?
Yes.
It's being made easier, but now the consideration is how is the brand showing up in the models? And how do we, you know, make, like, where are the holes, where are the gaps, where does, you know, how can we bring the content that hasn't been published into the published realm?
Yeah.
So that the models are learning from it and we're getting that digital authority.
Yeah, the whole GEO, that's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's probably a whole other conference here.
Right.
Excellent, excellent point. Yes, please.
Very broad term is, I would say, is domain expertise. What I mean with that is you need a spot expertise of something, right? And you just have a trained agent that is very deep into that topic.
I know you study this all the time. Will we have different AI experts?
Sure.
Yeah, each with different domains.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We see with software development.
Yeah.
We say, okay, with no world-class software developers
Yeah.
and an expert. And you know, for a day, sure, I use it for a day and then.
Wow, domain expertise, thank you. Let's go to the second question here. So now we're gonna go a little bit below the waterline. So I mentioned customer meetings, that's a pretty big one. But what else might be below the waterline that at least for the foreseeable future, we can hang on to and say, I'm gonna get really good at this. And then how are you gonna get good at it? Anybody have some thoughts on this one? Yeah.
Well, a long time ago, I thought I was doing an altruistic act by volunteering for a phone crisis line, dealing with teenagers who were considering suicide. The training that I went through for that turned out to be much more valuable than anything I gave back. But really, you were talking about how do you create a human connection where you really convince the person on the other end of whatever conversation that they are fascinating, you love them. And so dealing with people in crisis, whether it's a business crisis or a personal crisis, I'm not sure that now I know that there are students who decide that ChatGPT is their therapist, but that's led to some very nasty results.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
So, you know, all I remember is that those skills that I had to learn before they let me on the phone line turned out to be some of the most valuable psychologically driven tools I'd ever learned. It was really cool stuff.
And that really is maybe the deepest part of the waterline, right? Really being able to connect with another human, to get them to open up, to really understand, to show sincere interest.
Well, and Lynn pointed out this 3-friend minimum thing. We're really serious about that.
Yeah.
That these are people you can call when you're having a bad night and just vent. We'll listen, or you'll listen to one another. That's
Yeah.
you
And
can do
Claude,
that with ChatGPT, but I haven't found that to be very satisfying.
Claude shouldn't be one of those three.
No.
No, okay. That's really important. Somebody out there somewhere that they thought liberal arts degrees and skills were going to become more important as we need to get more human, which would be good revenge for that old joke. You know, the old joke, what's the difference between a large pizza and someone with a liberal arts degree? The pizza can feed a family of 4. So this will be their revenge on a stacked joke, you know? Yeah, look.
I mean, even before the crisis started, it's like just the people management. I'm not gonna listen to an AI.
Right,
I
right.
might listen to a human who's using the AI to tell me what to do. Yeah, I still need a human to tell me that.
You have conflict within your department. Is AI gonna solve that? I mean, there's a lot here that we do as humans that will remain. Yeah, that's good.
I think that mentoring and leadership, like talent development, attracting talent, that sort of thing in the same
Mentoring.
aspect.
Mentoring?
Yeah, coaching, because coaching I can do be like, hey, my boss has this personality and this is the issue. I think the AI could help me like craft a, very good email that wouldn't trigger anything, but mentoring and like, giving a shit about your talent and attracting the talent, that's not, not doing.
No.
I think that's a good phrase,
Oh,
right?
That's a good
You
one.
don't really know that AI gives a shit.
Yeah.
It's actually.
So we're not incentivized to give it.
Oh, you guys.
Some of the HR conference today is teaching people, oh, you're a supervisor. Here's how you use AI to coach a difficult employee.
Yeah.
Or to handle an exit interview.
Yeah, let me manage out this.
Or to fire someone.
Yeah.
On this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And not have legal kids.
I take it back.
think-
Okay.
Yeah.
We had another one is the realm of art.
Mhm.
And that maybe that's just always gonna be a sacred space for humans to express
Yeah,
the humanity of it all.
yeah, that's really good. What, creating things of beauty. I love it. Things that, when I think about, I don't know what the domains will be, but I think about judgment. I think there's a lot that we've experienced as humans that's been below the waterline, much of it dealing with other humans. It's not above the waterline. So I think judgment can be something. Maybe AI will present us with lots of options, but we'll still have some judgment, at least for some period of time.
You said something about judgment, so I've been thinking about this. Usually a lot of people develop judgment in a career because they did some of the menial tasks. And
Yes.
you have the mentors saying, so have you thought about like, where's that judgment gonna?
Yeah, I mean, they say that judgment comes from experience and
Little bite-sized chunks that add up over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually
And
negative one.
experience comes from bad judgment.
Right.
Exactly, right. It's kind of the cycle.
Yeah.
We have to learn, that's how we learn. And those lessons aren't always above the waterline. So I think there's some judgment that we'll still retain. I think social skills, empathy, some of the things we talked about, those I think will be some of the last to leave our domain if they ever do. And then this one I'm not as sure about, but imagination. Now, imagination, I can see AI doing a fair bit, because it's taking something from this domain and this domain and saying what if. I've seen some impressive things there. But I'd like to still think that the imagination of putting somebody on the planet Mars, or, you know, like the imagination of creating a business or doing something different that's never been done before may still remain uniquely human. So we'll see. Well, I think the views are filled up our time here. Do you guys,
Take some questions, go ahead.
are we good for a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Questions or more observations on the breakout you guys did? Yeah.
We were talking about this, Intel and I were talking about this at lunch, but I have a friend that he only mentors AI startups that are growing.
Okay.
And so they build all the agents and everything and they're interacting with each other. But now the people inside the company can't talk to each other. So they don't know how to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And so it's an all new batch of problems we're creating with the next generation of companies right now.
Wait, say that again? Wait,
Yeah, we're not at a point where we should be ignoring those human interactions. I think we already struggle from that, look at some of the social media and so forth, right? And this could just layer on to that. Interesting.
But a lot of 20-year-olds do accept that. They
Yeah.
do accept having no social interaction. They're okay with, what are you doing on Friday night? I'm laying in my bed for 6 hours doom scrolling. I'm like, no way, I would have gone out and wrecked a car.
They're okay with it. I think they're also,
No.
the increase in mental health.
Yeah, my teenage nieces loathe AI, just loathe it.
Yeah.
But that's also, this is still also gonna affect the interpersonal, it's like, why is the birth rate going down? Why is the marriage rate
Right.
going down?
Yeah.
Oh, why is the population, you know, the senior population so much of a higher percentage? Like, this is the whole replacement rate thing is a huge problem here,
Yeah.
even if labor demand goes down. Yeah, that means, yeah, population's eventually gonna go
And the
down.
entire civilization's been built on, pack animals,
Right,
we like to be with each other, and now it's changing.
And I noticed, as I entered the fifties and so on, just growing nostalgia from my
Yeah.
childhood, right? So it's like, I want the Kodak to come back. I wanted the Pizza Hut lunch to come back. What happened to the pizza?
Pizza Hut is coming back.
It's coming back. I saw that. And I'm like,
Valve coming, but I
like,
should talk about it yesterday.
if I never had those experiences, I'm not gonna miss them. I worry about the young people, like,
But there's
they
also-
never got that.
Now they missed it.
So,
I guess who's bringing that back? Are these people that you're telling me don't have any social interaction?
Yeah,
I mean, I think about probably the generation above me was gonna fail because they didn't have to go through the hard time.
yeah.
I was gonna fail because I didn't have hard labor skills. And then, so I'd be interested to get the perspective of our next generation that's dealing with this. I mean, I just went to a speaking of my high school. And they talked about how all the dorms have AC now, and we all booed it because when we were in the dorms, they didn't have AC. And but the headmaster talked about, we have no idea how hard the things these young boys have to go through. The
Right.
use of AI and our honor system to not write papers with AI. So I think, while I've never gone through a war, I had different problems. And the next generation has a ridiculous amount of problems, and they'll come together. I mean, people didn't think the millennials were gonna come together, and we've come together.
Mhm.
And I think we talk a lot about every generation before us has talked negatively on us. How we're not gonna fix it, and how, birth rates are gonna, so I think we probably should give them a little bit of credit that this is a problem they're dealing with and they're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, I also think that there's a rejection of the technology, right? Like
Yes.
we have seen, I personally know kids in college that have like flip phones and they don't want a smartphone. And they, they took their parents' DVD player and because they don't want subscriptions to Netflix and things like that. And they're going back to a much more analog experience. And so I think there will be, when you think about patterns, right? So, has there been a pattern with technology adoption that is similar to that, in the past? And what is the aftermath trend and what do those cycles look like? I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah,
I just want to share like my experience from the academic side of dealing with this generation. And like, I think last fall I experienced, like, I noticed the biggest shift in like recent years, like they were worried. There was like more silence in the room. So I pivoted my course, had like a heart to heart, and it's like there are not enough jobs. And it's so much emphasis now on experiential and what you were able to do and showcase in a job interview that they're like neglecting some of the courses and joining more clubs and more to show that they do stuff. And now there's a big push for the course from the school perspective to make the courses so experiential, because that's like what employers are asking, like, what did you do that you can show some results?
Yeah.
But the kids are like super worried, and I don't know how they managed to do so much at the same time. So the first thing I told them was like, you should have seen me at 20 when I was about to graduate. I was like, I don't know how you carve out time from your routines. Like, so a lot of them like are go-getters and they're aware, and but there's like an overall sense, I think, of like worry.
Yeah, that's a lot of anxiety, and I love your point. We'll figure it out, right? And that's, I think, the lesson. We, as I think about technologies, all the digital technologies, I was thinking about this the other day. I've actually seen them all. I say that because I showed up in 1973 with a slide rule to my engineering classes. The 4-function calculators weren't affordable yet. So I think about all the technologies that have come, and they all have an impact, and there's shifts. I think the thing about AI that I would suggest is I've never seen one come on so fast and so dynamically and so impactful. And so it takes time to adjust to things. And so that's why I was kind of looking forward to spending a little time with you all here, thinking about, well, how are we preparing for this?
I think your waterline thing is a tremendous kind of framework to think about this. Thank you for that, because, and I think this business of what punches through the waterline.
Yeah.
Like any kind of digital technology that's attached to a real trade, where the end game involves hands-on physical kinds of things, and the people who really can move across the waterline, and that waterline thing really, I think it's a great thing to think about.
Well, thank you. And thanks for mentioning, I actually put together like a 3-minute video. So if you want to share, it's called digitalwaterline.com. My company accuses me of buying way too many URLs. They're merciless in the thing. I actually told one of our designers, I said, could you get a URL for my funeral? Yeah. Dan loves URLs. But yeah, digital waterline, if you want to take a look at it, just basically the same slides if you want to share it in a little video form. But I want to say thank you. I was looking forward to this. I wanted to hear. I wasn't too interested in the first half because that was me talking. I was very interested in what you all have to say. And it sounds like you guys are preparing for the future. So, well, maybe we keep track of this in future segments.
We'll try it again. I added one at the end. I don't think I can do that.
Oh, that's a very good point. All right.
I don't know how you get there if you don't date.